Well, hey everyone, and welcome back to my garage. So there's a few things going on right now, a lot of projects actually. But today's project, I'm going to install a set of Doubletake mirrors on my Aprilia Tuareg 660. I'm also going to upgrade the footpegs on my 660 to the Altrider footpegs, which are local Seattle company, come really well reviewed. And then lastly, I'm going to get started on replacing the stock windscreen that came with it by installing a Puig Touring windscreen. Now for reference, I'm 6 foot tall and I weigh about 200 pounds on a good day. And the stock windscreen on my Tuareg's just not quite right for me, so let's get to it. For those of you that don't know, I have a 6-year-old son and I love the little guy. You're not going to see him here on social media because it's my opinion that kids should get to decide their social footprint when they're at an age when they know what it's all about. So there's no pictures of him anywhere on social media. That's my choice. Not saying you guys have to do it. But when you've got a kid, there's a lot going on. You don't have that much time to work on the projects you'd like to work on. And when you do work on a project, you kind of start it and you stop it and you start it and you stop it because there's always family demands. Anyway, my Aprilia Tuareg has definitely been one of those. And so what I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to be installing these wonderful mirrors. These mirrors are called Doubletake. And the Doubletake mirrors are designed to take a lot of the ups and downs of ADV riding. I'm not hardcore ADV rider. I tend to do more country roads and gravel roads, the odd single track, but I prefer to do single tracks on dirt-oriented motorcycles. But when you're taking a few tumbles, these Doubletake mirrors are great. And they work on a sort of industry standard connection here. You often see these for GoPro attachments and other accessories. It's called a RAM mount, RAM. And these RAM mounts are really great because they're just super compatible for lots of different aftermarket things. And these just bolt on nice and easily. So I've got one for each side. So the Aprilia Tuareg mirrors require a 20mm wrench to loosen these suckers up. Now, a thing to remember with when you're putting mirrors on is that unlike other bolt-ons where it's always a lefty-loosey, righty-tighty, with mirrors it's actually the opposite. So there's a trick for new players there when you're putting new mirrors on, is when you want to tighten them up, it's the opposite way than what you'd normally do with other bolts. So it's just a quick loosen up and then I'm going to unscrew it. Now these mirrors have a little bolt, have a little washer, and there's nothing worse than losing these things. I actually have a little magnetic tool, which I'm going to show you, which is really great when you lose bolts or you lose screws because it makes it much easier to retrieve them. So allow me to introduce you to these really helpful little tools. What these tools are, this one here looks like just an old-fashioned antenna, but on the back is a magnet. So, you know, when I'm looking for something, like this washer right here, which I happen to drop on the ground, or maybe you've dropped it in the engine, or just within the frame of the bike, these little suckers are really good. I'll put a link down below. But not only does it have these little antennas, it also has these little babies here with little mirrors. And these mirrors are also magnets, so you can look and grab. If you're anything like me and you've spent lots of time bolting stuff onto motorcycles and just screaming in the middle of the night trying to find that screw, definitely suggest you get a set of these. So the first thing I suggest you do before you bolt these suckers on, you've taken the OEM mirrors off, is just to loosen this RAM mount here. Just remove the little ball, put this other piece away, because you won't be needing this straight away. Just makes it a lot easier to get it in without having to worry about this big sucker on one side. In the past, all motorcycle mirrors that I've ever dealt with have been the opposite. So if you wanted to tighten the mirror or tighten the bolt for the mirrors, you would actually turn it left. And if you wanted to loosen it, you would turn it right. Now, when I first started doing mirrors, it was like, oh my God, what the hell is wrong with me? Now, interestingly, I found a lot of modern motorcycles, including this Aprilia, they actually work the way that every other bolt on the planet works. And my understanding is the reason why it's always had this opposite tightening approach has been because when the bike falls over, you want the mirror to loosen, not tighten and break. And some of the old BMW riders I know said, oh no, it's actually because when you're riding in the wind, it keeps the mirrors tight. But whatever that might be, where the Aprilia actually just kind of works the way you would expect it to work. So yeah, so make sure you don't forget this little washer here. This washer is really important. And pop that in here and tighten on the ram mount ball. And as we say back home, Bob's your uncle, she's on. Now I couldn't find what the Newton torque measurements were or required for this bolt. So I'm going to use the Bob's your uncle approach. Just give it a medium tension there. I'm going to grab my mirror. Here's the mirror, here's the ram mount. And just going to pop this on here. Nice and easy. The good thing about these ram mount balls also is that you know, you can use them for other things as well. So a lot of phone mounts require these. There's a lot of other things that you can put on here on these ram balls. Now I put the mirror on, just going to squeeze it like that, little set of teeth, boom. And just going to put this on here. And here's my left side done. So here's what they look like. They're not designed to be beautiful, but they're incredibly functional and they're super easy to get on and off. And pretty much become the standard on all the bikes I have that go anywhere or venture anywhere off-road. Oh, g'day. So let's take a look at what we've got here from the nice folks at Altrider. So we're presented with a nice person here on their adventure bike. Looks like they might be in the Pacific Northwest somewhere. A nice sticker, which we appreciate. And a beautiful set of machined foot pegs here. So straight out of the box, it's clear that this is really quality kit. You know, look really closely at that. It's just beautiful, beautifully machined. Nice little subtle logo here. Looks like they provided pre-threaded holes here that you can screw studs into, which come in this nice little bag here. So we've got a whole set of studs here. Another bag here of tension springs and washers required to install these where the OEM ones were. And I really like that they provide thread locker as well. Not everyone does that, so it's a nice little add-on there. So let's get started. So now that I've taken the first OEM foot peg off, one of the things that I really like about these Altrider pegs is that they're the only ones that have been built in a single mold or a single design, a single piece. And that's because the clevis piece here, where they install, has a very unique design. And you'll notice that these just fit perfectly in here. They're perfectly designed for the Tuareg. And this is one of the things that I really appreciate about what Altrider does. They really listen to their customers, and it's just beautifully made. Now I've tried a few other sets. I bought another set of pegs and I actually started making a video on them. They're actually designed for the Tenere 700, but said they'd work on this. And the minute I opened the package, I could tell they weren't quite what they said they were. So I'm glad I took the time to research these. The problem with a lot of the foot pegs that aren't designed for this is that there are foot peg companies that will just give you spaces to try and make theirs fit. And the problem with that is that over time they'll get sloppy. And I think that's kind of a safety issue. And I've experienced that before on other bikes. So that's another thing I really appreciate about these Altrider pegs. The other thing I like about them is the size. They strike a nice balance between the OEM one and the Altrider one. Now the reason I like the size is you don't want foot pegs being too large, especially if you're doing a lot of off-road or even just light ADV, you know, gravel roads and stuff, because if they're too big, they can have a habit of hitting your calves as you're riding. Now some brands like pivot pegs, which I also really like, I have those on my CRF 300, they will pivot. But these ones are just a nice size. They're not too big, not too small, and because it's a unibody design and there's no spaces, they're going to stay nice and solid regardless of how you're riding. Okay, so let's talk about the tools needed. First of all, you're going to want a 5mm socket. You're going to want a 5mm hex key, or as we call them, Allen keys in some parts of the world. You're going to need a set of needle nose pliers. You're going to want a ratchet or driver like I've got here. And ideally you want some grease and a rag. And as I said, Altrider give you these this thread locker as well, which is really nice. Now these are colored gold and silver. So the gold is the rider's right-hand side peg, and the silver is the rider's left-hand side peg, just so you don't get too confused there. Now these camber washers right here are designed for stepping up as you need to. So if you use none of these, that's just a neutral position, and then they step up from 0.5 to 1mm thick. And that does make a difference in terms of the camber. For me, I tend to ride in a neutral position, so I probably won't be using these. So once you've taken your first foot peg out, it's important that you save the OEM washer here, okay? Okay, so there's 32 of these little cleat pins here, and this is what you need the 5mm socket for. And so what I'm going to do is sort of set some of these aside here, and we'll just put some thread locker on, and we'll get these all going, and then we'll be ready to set them in a moment. So it looks like there's about 18 of these per peg. I like to put about quarter of the cleat into with the Loctite. So as those are setting, we're going to get started with a 5mm socket. You can either do this by hand with a hand wrench, or of course you can use a trusty driver. Now they don't require a lot of torque, and you obviously don't want to over torque them. So I'm going to use my hand wrench for this purpose of this. So I'm just getting started. And got my little hand wrench here. Now there aren't any torque settings specified here, so I'm just going to use good judgment, and we'll get all of these done, and we'll just get one side done. Actually, sometimes some jobs can get really tedious, so I'm just going to use a very light torque setting. And we always like an excuse to use a power tool, right? So another option. So I've decided I'm going to use a couple of these small washers on either side. Just one of the thicker ones and one of the thinner ones. So I've got a little bit of camber on each foot peg. Not too much though, I don't really want too much. I generally like it to be pretty neutral. So I'm going to put the larger washer on the bottom here, and I'm going to put the thinner one on the top. I like to put my washers on before I put the Loctite on, just so I've got a good set of Loctite and I don't lose any of that Loctite. Okay, so now you've got your small washer and thicker washer. We want to just get our number 5 Allen key or hex tool out here and screw this in nice and tight. So it's important to remember with these washers that no washers is basically the OEM setting for camber, and 2 washers are somewhere in between. If you use all 4 washers, that's the most aggressive setting. So I've got mine at just 2 here. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the pin here. So the flat edge, which is just this piece here, is going to slide into this little hole right here. Okay, and then this piece here at the top, that's what's going to go against the frame of the motorcycle. So it's going to look like this. And remember that the gold spring is for the right-hand side. Now, it's important that you save the OEM bolt here. So this is a load-bearing bolt, okay? So what I would suggest you do at this time also is to just get a little bit of rag, and it's a good opportunity just to provide a bit of put a bit of grease, not too much. You don't want too much grease. Just apply a little bit of grease to this pin here, this OEM pin, which we're going to be reusing in a moment. Okay, so hopefully you can see this, but now I'm going to come over to the motorcycle and I'm going to pop this in like here, and that just engages like so. Now there's definitely a bit of a knack to this. Now, like anything in life, sometimes things are easier than they look, or harder than they look. And so what I've decided to do is just use a drift. Essentially, just put a tool in through here, just to hold the peg in place. And then I can take my pin here and slot it in more easily. So a little bit of a trick. You can see that that is now lined up. So I just need to remove it and then just put this peg in. Okay, some pretty bad camera work on my part there. Sometimes it's pretty hard to do this and film at the same time, but you can see that now that pin is there and the spring is installed. All I need to do now is put in the retaining pin and we'll be good. Okay, so now we're going to have to take the original washer, or you can use another one if you want. I'm going to use the original one. Make sure that is placed nicely here, and take your cotter pin. There's usually one end is going to be sort of longer than the other, and we're going to want to make sure that threads through nicely here. So really I was just proving that I am human and I'm not an AI, and we do actually make mistakes. So now I can I just use my finger to start with, and then I'll get my needle nose pliers out. Just want to make sure you wrap this around nicely so that you don't lose your foot peg at some point. Okay, so now I have one side done. And yeah, looking good. Okay, so when you're doing the left-hand side of the bike, thing to remember is that if you don't have your bike on a paddock stand, then the side stand is going to get in the way of the install because it's going to be down like that. Now I have my bike on these Dynamoto stands, so it's a little bit easier. But if you don't have that, what I'd suggest you do is get your bike close to a wall, put a piece of wood under here, so it's slightly raised, and then have someone hold the bike for you so that you can then get in under here to where the cotter pin here is and the main bolt for the peg. Okay, so now that I've got my bike up on a stand here, I'm going to remove this OEM pin. Well, I've got to say that these Italians sometimes really know how to make something that's supposed to be really easy a lot harder. It's a pretty strong pin, so that's part of it. Here you go. So I'm just to remind you, I'm using a power tool here for these. Okay, so same as last time. It's really important that we get the spring in the right way. Okay, so remember the peg's going to go like so. All right. So this flat side of the spring is going to go on in there, and then that just fits in nicely like so. And of course this other side went in much easier than the other one, than the other side did, which is kind of Murphy's Law, I suppose. Okay, so there's the left side done. Make sure you don't forget to put that cotter pin in here because you don't want your peg falling out. So there you have it. I've done the Doubletake mirrors. Got these nice foot pegs installed, courtesy of our friends here at Altrider. And I'm not famous enough to be sponsored for any of these videos, but they are a Seattle company, so it's good to give them a plug. Now, conspicuously, this guy here is looking a bit empty, so there's a few other things I want to do here next. Okay, so you might have seen that on a bunch of my bikes I've installed this Garmin mount. This is the one I installed on my Multistrada. Well, now it's time to put it onto Tuareg. Now, on the Tuareg, so first of all you have to take the windscreen off, which I did already, and then in true Evotech style they provide you with a bunch of really nice paper bags and a bunch of super nice machined parts. Alright, so I'm going to need to first of all get these bits here sorted. This piece here is going to slide really nicely onto this base plate right here. And the way that works is so that we can eventually attach the main Garmin mount piece, which will also go on top of here as well. And it's just a 3mm hex or Allen key. There's one right there, and the other one. The other thing you'll find in the box from Garmin are these two little guys here, right? And these O-rings. Now, these are what is going to go over the supporting bar, which holds a GPS mount, and they're just going to slot in like so, right? One on either side, like that. And then once we've done that, let's get a pair of scissors and just going to cut down the middle of both of them like that, so that they can open over the OEM bar that comes from Aprilia. It's actually a really great bar. I'm really glad they had that accessory bar. So once we've done this, we just simply mount it on the actual mounting bar on the bike, and so we're going to do that next. Before we do that, we just need to attach this Garmin GPS mounting plate, which doesn't come in the kit. This comes extra. I just had a few of these lying around, so it was easy. If you bought a Garmin motorcycle GPS, this comes in the box, but you can also just buy them online. Just use the Bob's Your Uncle approach. make sure it feels tight enough. There aren't any torque settings that I could find anywhere on the Doubletake site for these. So look in the middle here, that little sort of square in the middle. That's where you might want to run the dedicated Garmin power mount or power cable, which I decided not to do on the Tuareg because the USB port's so close. But just to give you an example, that's what it looks like on my multi-strata, which I did install on as well. Tuareg, the GPS is literally, so the USB is literally just here. So it's really close. Okay, so this is the media bar here, for lack of a better word. And we're going to, which way am I going to do this? Oh, yeah, okay. We're just going to put these little O-rings around here, like so. What we're going to do is we're going to attach the actual mount now to here. Okay, so it's a little bit finicky because the way this housing works, you can see the camera here, is that this piece here, you got 2 screws that go through, and then it's going to attach like so over that mounting bar. So you kind of, if you're all fingers and thumbs like I am, it can be a little bit difficult, but I'm going to give it my best shot. Okay, so you also have these little pieces here. These are like little cylindrical spacers. What you need to do is you need to put a spacer in here on either side. All right. It's going to look like this. Okay. All right. Center it as best I can. I should have mentioned also that obviously those little rubber grommets need to be under here as well, because I think they act as kind of a vibration dampener. Okay, so here she is mounted. Now you're going to want to make sure you've got it on nice and tight before you put the screen back on. Right here, and you're up here, under here. So I feel pretty good about where this is. Now this is my Ducati sat-nav system. This is the Zumo XT. There's a newer model now as well. Okay, so with this Puig screen that I've got here, we have these bolts. Now these bolts have little square mounts. This is actually the OEM bolt that came with the bike. So these little bolts are just going to pop in behind here. So here's the little trick. These screws here, these nuts that are in the back here, are a pain in the ass. Okay, so they don't actually stay in there easily. And if you have big fingers and big thumbs like me, lining up these screws with these bolts or holding this in is a pain in the ass. So what I've done is I've just gotten a little bit of gaffer tape and I've put it behind each one just to hold them in place while I screw them in. Okay, so now's the moment of truth. Okay, so there's been a lot of stuff done on this project. We've put the Touring screen on. This is the Puig Touring screen. We put the Doubletake mirrors on. The GPS mount here for the Garmin. And these beautifully machined Altrider foot pegs. Now, of course, in some of the previous videos I went through putting these Doubletake racks on. And I think that everything is done now, so now it's time to go and put on some miles and see how this new screen goes. Well, that was quite a long video, I know, and sorry it was so long, but I hope it was useful for you. I had to do it over a few different days because I just had a whole lot of stuff going on. But that Tuareg is now sorted. You've got the Doubletake racks, we've got the Garmin GPS setup, we've got the quad lock wireless mount setup, we've got the new Puig Touring screen up there, we've got the wonderful foot pegs from our local friends here in Seattle. And so yeah, look, I'll put all the links down there somewhere, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If there's other things you're interested in, let me know. Always open to suggestions, and thanks for bearing with me as I figure out how to do editing and all that fun stuff. I'll see you later. Please like and subscribe. Bye.